So here I want to talk about not only the importance of values, but the importance of ordering them. I guess from a relatively young age, I've been well acquainted with the importance of putting your stuff into some sort of order. Growing up, I observed that there's two types of people in the world. There's those that, if they have a garage, they'll put their car in it. And then there's those that, if they have a garage, they'll use it as a place to store one of their hoarder piles. There's no judgment here. It's a free country. If you want to use your garage space to pile up random piles of stuff, you can do that. I live in a cold climate, and we get snow a couple seasons out of the year. So if I have a garage, I'm going to put my car in it because it's less times I have to go out there and push snow off the car and chisel ice off the windows. That saves you some time in the morning when you got to get to work. It's one less thing you got to do. And generally speaking, putting stuff in some sort of logical order can save you a ton of time. I've noticed this with my tools. Some of my smaller tools I'll hang up on pegboard in a orderly fashion, or I'll have shelves, and I'll have a spot for everything and try to keep everything in its place. And the advantage to that is when you're working on something and you need a tool, you know where to look for it. You don't have to dig around and try to remember what pile you shoved your wrench in. And the same thing when it comes to the kitchen. Like I like to know where all the kitchen tools are so that when I'm in a hurry trying to make a meal, that I'm not having to spend a lot of time digging around trying to find things. For example, I like quick oatmeal or instant oatmeal, and the advantage to that is it only takes a couple minutes to cook. Pretty simple. Put some oats in a bowl, put some water on it, put it in the microwave. Maybe throw some honey or blueberries on it if you want to get fancy, but it doesn't really take that long unless you don't know where your measuring cups are. Simple as it is, you gotta have pretty close to the right ratio of water to oats. Otherwise, you're either gonna have really, really dry oatmeal that's like mortar, or you're gonna have runny, soggy oatmeal. Being out of order or being in a disorderly state has always sort of been a source of anxiety for me. So, for example, if I'm trying to make my oatmeal and all of a sudden I realize I don't know where my measuring cup is, frantically looking around the drawer that it's supposed to be in, or looking through the pile of dirty dishes, is it still in the dishwasher? You can avoid a lot of that wasted time and stress if you just find a place for everything and put it in its place. It just makes things run more efficiently if you set up your work area. Oftentimes, the most challenging part of a system is trying to maintain it. As a kid, too much clutter would give me anxiety, so once my room got to a certain point, I would get the bug to spend an afternoon cleaning it all up and trying to throw out stuff that I don't use anymore and find a logical spot to put everything. And it looked good for a while, but over the next days, next weeks, I'd get busy doing other stuff, and slowly it would fall back into disorder, and the cycle would repeat itself. And actually, the easy part was spending the afternoon finding a good place for everything, and getting rid of old stuff that I didn't use anymore. The harder part was trying to keep it that way. This is probably true of most, if not all, people on an individual level, whether it's keeping our things organized or even other habits such as going to the gym, things like that. It's easy, I shouldn't say it's easy to start. Oftentimes, the hardest part is to take that first step to actually joining a gym and going to it. But once you get over that barrier, then the hard part is making a habit out, making a routine out of it, and sticking to it. Certainly, people struggle with this on an individual level, but it's also true that organizations struggle with the same thing. I mean, organizations are made up of individuals, and individuals will have these sort of struggles. So, if you're talking about families or businesses, social institutions, they're all made up of individuals, and they all struggle to maintain things. So, realizing that this is a problem, your more clever organizations will come up with various means to try to keep its members focused on the primary goal of the organization. You can think of a company mission statement. Basically, it's a well thought out statement to serve as a reminder of what it's all about. Something to the effect, focus on our niche, what we do best, and focus on our customer base. It's a way to hopefully keep everyone in the company focused on what's most important for the long-term success of the company. And a mission statement can be pretty simple and basic, but brilliant in that, focuses your attention on what's most important. Trying to sum up the mission of the company in a couple of sentences makes it really easy to communicate. And then, if you're thinking about that mission statement, you sort of filter through, what you're doing at the moment. Is this helping me towards my goal, fulfilling the company mission statement, or is this just wasted time? Or worse, is it a distraction that's going to get me off track? And this is useful outside of just business organizations, but if you look to religion, for example, you might think of the Great Commandments as a sort of mission statement. And I'm paraphrasing here, but the Great Commandment is something to the effect, love God and then treat your neighbor the same way you would want to be treated. Basically, love your neighbor as yourself. On the surface, that sounds pretty simple, just two things, but if you focus on those two things, it's going to keep you out of a lot of trouble as a believer. If every day you wake up and meditate on the Great Commandment and you're strive towards living up to it, you'll stand a fairly good chance of not breaking the rest of the commandments. And if every day you get up and you decide, you're going to go out and set yourself to try to treat your neighbors the same way you would want to be treated, well, it stands to reason you're probably not going to spread a bunch of malicious, slanderous lies about your neighbor. You're probably not going to murder him. You're probably not going to steal his stuff and sleep with his wife, the rest of the commandments. So if it's your goal to keep the commandments the best that you can, it's helpful to have a good mission statement that just sums it all up in a few sentences. And what's useful on the corporate level can often also be useful on the individual level. The company you work for might have its own mission statement. The church has its great commandments. But what is your personal mission statement? If you're someone interested in self-improvement, it's not a bad idea to maybe, as a thought experiment, think one out if you haven't. An individual life is a finite resource, so what do you want to do with yours? If you sum up your primary objective in a few sentences, well, then you have a focal point. You have something to measure your different habits and behaviors against. Say, is this helping me with my primary goal, or is it a hindrance or a distraction? So, a mission statement, whether it's the level of an organization, a business, a church, some other social institution, or whether it's on the level of an individual, can be a very good idea. It's simple, brilliant, to the point. If we want to elaborate a little bit more, and we'll do that in the next part of this video, to accompany our mission statement, we could also come up with a values matrix. Just define our core values, flesh them out a little bit, and then this also could serve as another thing to weigh our behaviors against. Or where do we go when we're trying to set our goals and work on different things in our lives? Well, if you have your values written out, you've got something to weigh what you're doing against. You've got something to prioritize your goals, examine your habits. So that's what we'll talk about in the next part of my series on values. You are watching the Fletch Report. Here we'll look for practical ways to live better, as well as we'll do research and analysis of the larger world around us. We'll discuss everything from how to stay healthy, how to better manage our personal finances, to giving commentary on current events and politics. If that sounds like your cup of tea, hit the subscribe button, take the like button, and leave a thoughtful comment. I upload on YouTube and Rumble, so follow me here or there or both.